Hi, GCC family. Pastor Billy here with your daily devotional. And we're going to go to John chapter 6. We are through the first 5 chapters in John as we've been going through the whole Gospel of John during this time. And so hope you're enjoying it. Hope you're liking it. Hope you're sharing it with others. Talking about it with family. Whatever you can do in this season to grow. And so as we get ready for this weekend and to celebrate the greatest event that's ever happened in the world, Jesus' death and resurrection. And so I'm excited for that. I do want to let you know tomorrow we're going to be taking a break from our devotional through the book of John, and we're going to do a special Good Day Friday devotional. So make sure you tune in when we post that and watch that one as well. All right, let's get John chapter 6, verses 1 through 15. This is the account of one of the most well-known miracles that Jesus did. Many people know about this. It's referenced oftentimes, and so it's a very familiar account of one of the things Jesus did. So let's read it. John chapter 6, verse 1. Some time later after this, Jesus crossed to the far shore of the Sea of Galilee, that is, the Sea of Tiberias. And a great crowd of people followed him because they saw the signs he had performed by healing the sick. Then Jesus went up on the mountainside and sat down with his disciples. The Jewish Passover festival was near. When Jesus looked up and saw a great crowd coming toward him, he said to Philip, "Where shall we buy bread for all of these people to eat?" He asked this only to test him, for he already had in mind what he was going to do. Philip answered him, it would take more than half a year's wages to buy enough bread for each one to have a bite. Another of his disciples, Andrew, Simon Peter's brother, spoke up. "Here is a boy with 5 small barley loaves and 2 small fish, but how far will they go among so many?" Jesus said, "Have the people sit down." There was plenty of grass in that place, and they sat down. About 5,000 men were there. Jesus then took the loaves, gave thanks, and distributed to those who were seated as much as they wanted. He did the same with the fish. When they had all had enough to eat, he said to his disciples, "Gather the pieces that are left over. Let nothing be wasted." So they gathered them and filled 20 baskets with the pieces of the 5 barley loaves left over by those who had eaten. After the people saw the sign Jesus performed, they began to say, "Surely this is the prophet who is to come into the world." Jesus, knowing that they intended to come and make him king by force, withdrew again to a mountain by himself. So this is the miracle known as Jesus feeding the 5,000, multiplying the loaves and fishes, however which way you want to say it, known as many different things. And Jesus had been doing miracles by this point. We recently read about how he healed the man who was paralyzed by the water, the pool, and we've seen him turn water into wine by this point. We've seen him do miracles, and word was getting out, and people were seeing these things, and now he has this group of thousands of people following him. It says that there were 5,000 men. Now, it's probably a bigger group than that because they just state that there were 5,000 men following him. There were probably women, pretty for sure women there, and we also know there were children there as well. So it could have been anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20,000 people there at that moment. Who knows? But he has these thousands of people following Jesus and watching him and coming to him. And this is a good thing, but it presents a problem. How do we feed all these people? And he asks Philip this. He asked Philip this question, and says that he already knew the answer, but he was testing Philip, maybe testing his faith during this time, and wanted to hear Philip's answer. And Philip kind of panics a little bit when he sees the crowd, and he's saying, "You're asking me how we're going to feed all these people?" I probably was worried Jesus was expecting him to buy all the bread or something. He's a little panicked, a little overwhelmed in this season because he's looking at what's going on, and he's saying, "I don't have enough to take care of all of this situation." And then Andrew, he brings Jesus a boy's lunch, basically, these 5 loaves and 2 small fish. And he says he has a little bit, but how's that really going to help all this? And Jesus has everybody sit down. And the boy, it's interesting because this boy's lunch is what Jesus used to feed thousands of people. And this boy was the answer to the problem. This boy was the one that Jesus chose to use to address this problem, when this boy probably wasn't even accounted for in this story, because it only told us how many men were there. And yet Jesus chooses to lose a boy to answer this problem. I think that's pretty incredible when we look at that. And he takes the loaves and fishes and he multiplies it, and they have enough for leftovers. I mean, baskets load of leftovers. Everybody eats plenty. Everybody eats good. Everybody eats full. And man, it's an amazing thing. And then people, they're excited. They're saying, wow, look at this. Look at what he's done. And Jesus knew that they would try to force him to become king. And he knew that that wasn't his mission. He knew what his mission was. And it could have been very easy in that moment for Jesus to just love the thousands of people cheering him and accept that. But what he does is he goes off by himself, probably to meet with God, as he did often through the Gospels. We see him go off. Whenever he has this huge crowd, we see him walk off and go by himself and to pray and to meet with God, and probably to, as I would guess, Jesus being fully God but fully human as well, and he had those same feelings and emotions and things that we had, probably to realign himself and remind himself of what he was really doing. And so he goes off and he's by himself, and we see this amazing miracle happen of Jesus multiplying the loaves and fishes, feeding everybody. What does this tell us? Well, how do we apply this to our lives? What can we take away from this story? Well, there's a couple things. I think one of the things, and this is very helpful right now in the times we're in, when Jesus is with you, you have all you need. I think that's the first thing. And he asked Philip, how are we gonna feed all these people? And Philip's like, I don't have enough to feed all these people. He's panicking, but Jesus was with them, and that was all they needed to be able to get through that problem. And I think right now for us, it's so important to remember, with everything going on, that Jesus is with us, so we have everything we need. He said in his word, he says that he will provide everything we need, and so we have to trust that. We have to know that, be confident in that Jesus is with you, so you have all you need. The second thing is this: when you are willing, and we learned this from this young boy. This is something we can learn, a good life lesson for us. When you are willing to give Jesus what you have, he can make it so much greater than what you had. You understand what I'm saying? He can make whatever you give him, whatever you're willing to give him, he can make it greater. And so that goes with financially. That goes with, think about when you give, if you give offerings, if you give to a church, if you give to missionaries, things like that, and you give maybe $5 or something like that, and it's a coffee drink for you, but then that money goes to a missionary who's able to go, and because of that money, it's able to help, go and share the gospel with someone. I mean, and you're giving that money to Jesus, and it's making a difference, greater impact than buying Starbucks or something. You think about when, your time, and how, when you give God your time and are willing to sit and learn and grow in him, how much growth takes place from a little bit of time that you give him each day, and how he can make it better than you doing something else with it. If you give it to God, he makes it greater. You think about your talents or your abilities, and how, I think of my own life and how God just, he's multiplied my abilities. I think he makes me so much better than I actually am. And so I think that's the case with so many people that are talented, people that have different gifts and abilities that God's given them. Those gifts are great if we use them for ourselves. We can still use them for ourselves. We can still use them. But when we give those gifts to God, those talents and those things to God, are our giftings, man, he multiplies those things and uses them for something even greater. And so I want to encourage you today, church, a couple things. And with everything going on, remember that Jesus is with you. Remember that he is with you, so you have all you need. And two, think about what you can give to God right now in this season in your life. What can you give to him that he can make greater? Maybe it's more time with him. Maybe it's your gifts and your abilities. Maybe it's financially. Maybe it's just whatever it may be, different things. Think about what you can be giving to him right now. And maybe it's a small amount because you don't think it's a very big deal. I mean, that boy probably said, I only have five loaves and 2 fish. What are you really going to do with this? And then Jesus took it. And man, he used it for something amazing. And so I just want to encourage you in that today, church. Have a great day. We will see you tomorrow for Good Friday devotional. And I hope this message, this devotional blesses you. Have a good day.